magical sparks, welcome back to my channel. It's Sparkle. And have you heard that saying where people say the sky is the limit? Well, let me tell you, there are no limits when it comes to you, and that's exactly the mindset I'm going to be using for today's video, because today I'm trying out an art supply that I don't use that often, so I'm not quite experienced in how it works, but we're going to be trying to make some art and honestly just kind of push myself out of my comfort zone in almost every perceivable way. And if you're not already hooked in just by that, then let me tell you that in today's video, not only are we going to be unboxing this brand new art supply that was very kindly sent to me by the team at Ohuhu to try out, thank you so much Ohuhu, but we are also going to be, well, the real question is, where do I begin? We're going to be looking at these brand new markers, swatching, experimenting, drawing, and I'm also going to show you guys 3 very fun step-by-step hand lettering tutorials that you can try out for yourself. And with that, let's get straight to it. So our art supply of the day are these Ohuhu Pupe markers, and I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly, I'm still learning, but these are water-based markers, and over here we have a set of 60 Ohuhu Pupe markers. Also, can I just take a second to say that the illustration on the front of the marker packaging looked so good. Like, just looking at the amount of detail that went into it, I was absolutely in awe. And now, to be further in awe, look at these markers. Oh my gosh, okay, let's not get too excited, let's start with the pamphlets. So over here we've got some information about things to avoid, things to do. And next up, we have a printed swatch card. And because my brain just seems to work differently, the first thing I noticed was that this color looks really similar to the color of my jacket. Anyways, something I really appreciate is that this set came with a printed swatch card and a coloring swatch card that we can color in ourselves. And of course, as we do that a little later on, we are going to aim for maximum satisfaction. But before that, look at this, like, oh my gosh. When you hear the number 60, it kind of just sounds like, oh yeah, 60, just a number. But when you look at 60 markers in front of you like this, separated in rainbow order, it is absolutely stunning. It is like a dream to the eyes of an artist, especially considering the fact that it is organized by colors. Like, that just made me so happy. And now let's take a look at one of the markers. So here's a nice beautiful pink marker. As you can see, it is labeled with the fine liner side and the brush tip side. Also, this is labeled so well. We've got the number code and the name, as well as a labeling that says paper friendly, but more on that later. For now, here is how the nibs look. As a previous 12-year-old who used to save up all her pocket money just to buy Tombow brush tip and fine liner dual-sided pens, looking at these pens makes me so happy. And you know what else makes me happy? Even though the fine liner cap doesn't fit on top of the brush tip cap, at least it works the other way around, and I will still take that as a win. So there you go. And now we've seen how the marker looks, and we've seen the nibs, we've seen the caps, we've seen the entire marker set. I think it would make sense for us to do a bit of magic and move straight on to the satisfying process called swatching. And as I was going to start swatching, I realized something that absolutely blew my mind. And you know what? So basically, the way the markers are organized in their actual packaging perfectly corresponds with the way they are ordered on the swatch cards. And that is such a big deal, because that means you can easily swatch all your markers without having to double check their numbers or names, and it just made the entire process so much more time effective and honestly just so much more enjoyable. To be honest, I really wish that all my marker sets were like this, where they were just perfectly organized when I just got them, and the way they're organized perfectly corresponds with the swatch card. Like, seriously, it is a humongous time saver. And as I was finishing up swatching, I realized that this set also comes with a colorless blender. And I just thought that it's so cool that even water-based markers come with a colorless blender now. It's pretty cool. And now finally, here is how these swatches look. Check it out. There is such a great variety of vibrant, saturated, beautiful colors. And just looking at these colors, it's screaming joy, it's screaming rainbow happiness. and I love it. And now it is time to move on to the next part of this video, and that is going to be experimenting and playing around with these art supplies in my little mini messy sketchbook. And this is basically my sketchbook where I draft ideas, I have fun, I try out art supplies, and I just basically doodle and draw mindlessly. Like, I don't need anything to turn out perfect. And the reason why I love this sketchbook, especially when I get a brand new art supply like this, is because it can help me to really just experiment with the art supply and to discover what the boundaries are and how I can push them and how I can be creative and experiment and create something awesome. So to start it off nice and simple, I went ahead and tested out the different line weights I can get with the fine liner nib and the brush nib, and as you can see, they are both really versatile, and I love the combination between the two because with these two nibs I feel like there's just so much you can achieve. And next up, I wanted to try blending, because water-based markers, sometimes they blend really well and sometimes they don't. This is why it's important to test out each individual brand and each individual set of markers. And in the case of these markers in particular, I'm very happy because I can say that they blended really well, and I was quite surprised because they blended almost as well as alcohol-based markers do, which is something I'm definitely really happy about. And you know what? Yes, I am using the word happy a lot, but that's because I'm genuinely happy about how well these markers are working. And even look at this opacity test. They also layered pretty well too. And they are great for calligraphy, especially if you're someone who likes to journal. I think these pens would be a great addition for you. Alright, so now we know how these markers work with their line weights. We know how they blend, we know about their opacity and how they look when they are layered upon each other. But now let's actually put it to the test and try and make a couple of cards. Starting it off with the first card, what you're gonna wanna do is to grab your pencil and lightly sketch out a circle. And don't worry if it gets too dark like mine did here, just grab an eraser and lighten your sketch. Then have a look at your swatch card and pick out a nice, vibrant but slightly dark, almost hot pink color. And now we're going to pretend that our brush tip marker is basically just a watercolor brush, and we're going to try and paint some watercolor roses. Start with a swirl in the center and then just kind of work your way outwards, adding more lines. Make sure that they're just really random and intuitive and also varying in thickness. And voila! Next step is to go ahead and grab a light pink marker and draw some small flowers with just 5 petals just randomly around the roses. And for those flowers, go ahead and add a little yellow dot at the center of each. Now grab your green brush pen and outline our sketch of the circular shape. And don't worry if it's not perfect, that just adds character and makes it look even more beautiful because it's handmade. Then go ahead and draw leaves around our line that we just drew, and that way you can really kind of tie the circle together like a garland. Also go ahead and add some leaves, and optionally if you want, just add some little circles with a light yellow marker, or you can add some sparkles with a darker yellow marker. And then you're done. You can just write whatever message you want on the inside, customize it to whatever you want to turn it into, and voila, that's basically it. That is the first idea in a nutshell. As someone who loved watching Mr. Maker growing up, I kind of just felt like him right now. And now moving on to our next idea. So for this idea, write whatever message you want, but make sure you write it with a light color. It can be any light color you want. In my case, I'm going ahead and using this beautiful light pink. Once you're happy with how it looks, go back in and make particular lines a little bit thicker. Make it intentional. For example, I'm making most of the downward strokes a little bit thicker. Now go ahead and grab your second color. So this color has to be darker than your first one. In my case, I'm using dark purple, and just use it to fill in the bottom half of each word. And as you do that, go back in with your first color and just kind of try to blend it out as much as you can. As always, don't worry, it doesn't have to be perfect. Now I'm going to be using the fine liner side of the purple pen and using it to kind of add a shadow around each side of each word. And I'm also going to be going back in with a gray marker to kind of emphasize that shadow and kind of make the word pop off the page. Then I went back in with the purple and added some speckling between the part where the colors met in each letter, and that way I kind of gave the illusion of a gradient. And here's how it turned out. And now finally, for this idea, I wanted to try something I haven't really tried before. So we're going to be trying it out, I think for the first time today actually. And that is going to be using our markers on a plastic sheet and spraying them with water and then kind of getting like a really cool watercolor effect on our paper and doing calligraphy on top. I've seen people do it online, but I've never tried it myself. So let's try that together. So the first step is to grab a plastic sheet of paper or anything where the marker basically won't stick, like a sandwich bag for example. Use your marker and scribble on top. Then grab a spray bottle, fill it with water, and spray that sheet. And then go ahead, place your paper on top, turn it over, gently peel it off with a protective surface underneath, and just kind of grab a tissue and dab off any excess paint. Then wait a couple of minutes for it to dry, and there we go. We have a really cool watercolor gradient blended ombre kind of surface where we can do anything we want, and in this case, I'm gonna go ahead and write "Keep Sparkling On." And I'm gonna tell you a secret, but pinky promise you won't tell anyone else. I was actually meant to write "Keep Sparkling," but I kind of had some extra room, so I wrote "Keep Sparkling On." Otherwise, I would have written "Keep on Sparkling," but yeah, shh, don't tell anyone. Anyways, here is the grand reveal of all 3 hand lettering papers, and I love them all. I mean, it's really hard to pick a favorite, but I'll pick one anyways. I love the one in the middle. I just think just the message and the sparkliness of it, it just looks so mesmerizing. And with that, let's move on to the drawing process. And by the way, I'm just going to take this chance to tell you guys that I will be adding links to these markers in the description down below. Links and any other information provided to me from Ohuhu, like discounts and things like that, will be in the description. So make sure to check that out if you'd like to buy these markers for yourself or just have a look and learn some more about them. Also, if you've made it all the way to this part of the video, I'm talking 11 minutes and 59 seconds. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me, especially if you made it here without skipping or fast forwarding. And if you did, feel free to let me know in the comments down below by commenting the rainbow emoji. Thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. And now let the show go on. Let's begin drawing. Paper, check. Pencil, where's the pencil? Okay, check. And finally, sketch. Boom, here it is. So what I did was I took a bit of time just to get my base sketch on the paper so I can kind of see my idea come to life. And once I was happy with the composition, I decided to lighten the sketch and bring you guys along with me for the rest of the sketching process. Now this is where we really kind of finalize those details and actually bring this drawing together so we can get straight on to the line art and then the coloring. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to be talking you guys through my drawing process, and we're also going to be talking about my thoughts on these markers. So let's get straight to it. So for this drawing, I had a really cool idea. Honestly, a combination of ideas. Firstly, I wanted to draw a girl sitting down and reading a book. Then I decided to kind of make her look a bit fancy, kind of like a Barbie princess. And then I kind of thought of like Jumanji, and I thought, what if the animals kind of come to life? And then I thought I could make them like Disney woodland creatures, or I could make them completely random and just like nonsensical. Anyways, to put it all into perspective, basically I thought, let's draw a girl who's dressed kind of all in pink, kind of like a Barbie doll, and let's draw her reading a book. Let's draw a bunch of random animals around her, kind of like what she's reading, and her entire imagination is coming to life. And I also wanted to make the animals kind of give Alice in Wonderland themes at the same time. It's kind of crazy, to be honest. So I decided to give them random accessories like a tie and a bow. And if you already think that's so crazy, because I think that's crazy, it gets crazier. I decided to paint these animals in the most random, saturated, vibrant, crazy rainbow colors. So yeah, I cannot believe I made this drawing, and I don't think you'll be able to believe that I made it either. But I gotta say, it was pretty fun. Kind of scary, but also pretty fun. Scary because I did not know if this would turn out well or look good until the very end of the process. Anyways, with our sketch done, let's go on to the line art process. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to take this chance to talk to you guys about my thoughts on these markers. And while they were sent to me for free by the company, all my thoughts and reviews right now will be honest and 100% completely mine. And with that, let's begin. So firstly, these markers, I think they're exceptional. They are dual-sided, which means you get both a brush nib and a fine nib, all in one marker. I think that's so cool because let's say you're journaling, you can use the brush tip to write your title or your header, you can use it to highlight important things on your page, and then you can use the fine liner to draw, to write, and in this case, we could have even used it to outline this drawing. But the main reason why I used my Ohuhu fine liners instead is because these fine liners are waterproof, and I really needed that because I was going to try some watercolor techniques with our Ohuhu Pupe markers. So yeah, I needed the outlining to be waterproof. And now back to our markers. So I definitely love the selection of colors in the 60 marker set, especially because they are so vibrant and so saturated, and I think there's just such a happy selection of colors. I love how they're all bright, but there are also some grays and some slightly more desaturated colors, and I think the variety is pretty cool. Something I did notice though is that there are some colors that are kind of quite similar to each other. For example, some of the reds, some of the greens, and some of the grays are really quite similar to one another. And the thing about that is, it can actually be a good thing because that means that when one marker runs out, you'll have a backup. But at the same time, it can also be viewed negatively because those similar colors could have instead been replaced by different looking colors to add more variety to the overall set. At the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to your perspective. For me personally, I would like to think of it as, you know what? Yay, I have a backup marker in case that first one runs out. Honestly, that just kind of sounds like most things in life. How is your perspective going to influence the way you think about things? Also, check this out. I was kind of just curious to see if these markers would kind of work like watercolor markers since they have water-based ink. So I grabbed a little ceramic cup and I grabbed my water brush, and check it out. It actually worked almost exactly like watercolors. And that was so handy because do you realize what this means? This means you could literally have an unlimited collection of colors up your sleeve because all you have to do is just mix two colors in a bowl and use your water brush, and then boom, you have a brand new color. So technically, this 60 color set kind of holds the power to unlocking almost all the colors in the universe. That's kind of crazy to think about. And I'm so happy that I kind of just experimented and found out that these markers do work really well when I'm using them with a water brush, because with that I was able to do so many different techniques on this one drawing. I was able to try using the watercolor technique to kind of just like lay down shadows and then color on top to kind of emphasize those shadows, and you'll see me experimenting a lot with this drawing. It was honestly so much fun and I would love to do it again. Also, most times when I use water-based markers, I love to pair them with a different medium, such as pencils, alcohol-based markers, or in this case, acrylic paint pens, specifically Ohuhu's Nahuku acrylic paint pens. And the reason why I love doing that is because you can achieve such a cool texture and such a cool effect when you pair any type of medium with a different medium. It just kind of opens up a world of possibilities. And also kind of pushes you to think differently and to try doing things in a different way, which is obviously something that is a huge bonus. And now back to my thoughts on the markers. Something else I also loved was the packaging, because it's really sturdy, and at the same time, if you're someone who's traveling, it kind of just helps the markers to stay organized and not get displaced. So it will just stay in the perfect order that you previously placed it in, which is something that I really love. But at the same time, when I was trying to get a marker out, specifically the pink markers, I kind of had to open up the entire marker case completely, and when it was completely open, it took up a lot of space on my desk. And my art desk isn't that big, so when I had that opened up completely, it was a bit hard. So I had to use the desk on the other side to kind of place it there. Yeah, so it's pretty big, but if you're someone who's traveling and you're on the go, it's definitely a really easy way to keep your markers organized and help you just work effectively and improve your workflow. Also, this is like really random, but I personally love the length of these markers because there's just something about holding a really long pen or marker that I just love. It kind of makes me feel like I'm holding a paintbrush, and in that way, these markers were really just comfortable to hold, for me at least. Anyways, this is basically the technique I was talking about earlier. So as you can see, I mixed a blue and a purple to create kind of this indigo, blue, violet type of color. Then I used it to lay down the shadows on the deer. Then I went back in directly with the blue brush marker and then added some more shading and blended that out. And with that, check it out, our deer looks so cool. The shading looks beautiful, almost like it was done with alcohol-based markers. Which I have to say is really impressive to be able to get that kind of effect or even something mildly similar with water-based markers. So I am genuinely impressed. And now moving on to our lion. So for our lion, my concept was to go in and color the skin with a really kind of light pink and then to color in the mane with a darker pink and some blue highlights here and there. But the thing is, as I started coloring, I realized that I kind of picked out the wrong pink color, and this pink looks a bit more like skin, but what I wanted to go for was mainly light pink cotton candy colored fur. But it's fine, with a bit of layering and experimenting, and with the help of the Ohuhu markers and some shading and also some patience, I was able to get the effect that I wanted. And for the mane, I mixed a couple of purples to kind of get this beautiful purple as a base, and then I went on top with my pink to add some shading and coloring and just kind of work on this drawing and render it until I was happy with how it was looking. I truly find it so exceptionally wonderful to think about how these markers are so versatile. Like, you can use them for drawing, calligraphy, hand lettering, writing, journaling, making to-do lists, and you can also use them with water to kind of like imitate watercolors. And I mean, that's really cool for an art supply to be able to be so good at being utilized for a wide variety of tasks. And even just having multiple uses and multiple purposes, like, that's impressive, to be honest. Oh, and by the way, it is time for the final animal of this video, which is our tiger. So for this tiger, I wanted to make our tiger, instead of orange and white, I wanted to make him purple and light pink. I know this sounds crazy. I know it is just so unpredictable, but guys, I have a vision. I kind of made a really quick, simple plan, and I kind of trust the process. So please trust me. This is going to turn out great. And also something that was kind of a last minute decision as I was working on the sketch was the Ohuhu logo right next to the tiger. So as I was working on the base sketch to kind of map out the composition, I noticed that there was a bit of space left near the tiger. So I could either cut out or, cut off that side of the paper, or I could just add a little tiny detail to balance out the composition. And then I thought of the greatest idea, which is to go ahead and pop in the Ohuhu logo there, because it is perfect for this drawing. And I gotta say, it worked out beautifully and made the composition look so much more balanced. And now you might think we're done, but actually we're taking things a step further. So I thought to myself, in case this fails, let me just record a clip of how the drawing currently looks. But thankfully, it didn't fail. Don't worry, it's all good. So what I did was I picked out a set of colors, which you can see right here next to the drawing, and I tried to use them just like I would use watercolors to add a beautiful gradient in the background, kind of similar to our third hand lettering card. And I was so excited to do this, but also a little bit nervous because I wasn't sure how this particular paper was going to work with watercolors, especially on such a large area, considering that it is not watercolor paper. But thank goodness it worked out perfectly, it worked out beautifully, and we're signing it up, so I think you know what that means. It's time for the grand reveal! And voila! Here is how our final drawing turned out. I cannot express just how happy I am to see my idea on paper and looking beautifully, looking wonderfully. I honestly am so happy to see how this drawing turned out. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Once again, I'd like to send out a very big thank you to the team at Ohuhu for sending me these markers to try out. I truly had a wonderful time using them, and I'll definitely be using them in the future as well. Thank you so much. And also, I hope these little hand lettering tutorials might have been handy. I hope this drawing could inspire you. And if you want to check out more about Ohuhu or their markers, or in particular this marker set, feel free to check out the information and links in the description down below. But anyways everyone, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys all have a fabulous day. Stay awesome as always, and I'll see you in the next one.